Hello out there, growing women, growing wealth, listeners, subscribers, friends. Thank you for being here. Daphne Jones, thank you for being here. You
Hey,
better be here, though. You're my
any
co host.
anytime.
Today on Grown Women, Growing Wealth, we have Johanna Walker. She is a speaking coach and storytelling expert. Thank you so much for
Yay.
joining us.
You're so welcome. I'm delighted to be here.
Very cool. So speaking is all the rage these days. Everybody out there says get a podcast, start speaking. So tell us how you got to be a speaking coach. I know you have a theater background, correct?
That is true. Yeah. I mean, I guess the long story is I was an incredibly quiet kid. I'm not going to tell a super long story, but just to,
We
I
got
was
about an hour.
an incredibly quiet kid. I was an incredibly quiet kid. I was a good girl. I was the well-behaved, just like my job was to get the right answer. And if I wasn't 100% sure I had the right answer, I did not speak. And I would sometimes go for days without speaking. Like I can remember standing at the bus stop, counting on my fingers. Oh, that's 5 days where I didn't say a word. So I just went through the world in my little quiet bubble. And then it was through poetry and dance and theater as a young adult that I kind of launched into like, oh, I have something to say. Um, and and then so I was on theater stages as a storyteller. I helped other people tell stories. I worked with adolescent girls and women in jail and senior adults. And about 10 years ago, helping them tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
And about 10 years ago, a colleague of mine was invited to give a TEDx talk, and she asked if I could help her. And I was like, sure, I'll see what I can do. And that opened the door to the world of business, the world of speaking, and working with entrepreneurs and CEOs and across the board, finding, people have some part of their voice that they've held on the back burner, some part of their voice that didn't have a soft landing pad. And that there's so much power in, I had an extreme story of not speaking, but so many people have different stories and different relationships with like the parts of their voice they're
Mm-hmm.
keeping under wraps.
So you mentioned you say a friend of yours in a TED talk, and
Yeah.
so during this time period, were you an entrepreneur or were you W-2?
I was a starving artist. I was doing theater projects. I was painting houses. I was teaching classes. Like I was hanging. So technically I was an entrepreneur. I hung flyers, worked with adolescent girls, did some projects in jails with women, started teaching solo performance, charged $20 a class. So it was just technically I was an entrepreneur, but I never considered myself a business owner. I was just committed to my starving artist life. And I thought that was my lot in life, and then it was when I started this was my first client, this person who was giving a TEDx talk. That was 10 years ago, and then I thought, oh, I could do this. I could be a speaking coach. I didn't even really know
Mm-hmm.
what that meant because I lived so far on the fringe of the artist world, And I reached out to another theater friend who had a business as a speaking coach. And I said, hey, what have you figured out? And he kind of took me on to show me how he has applied the theater work to speaker coaching. And he helped me start a business. And then there was a point where he said, now you're going to have to go speak too. And I said, no, I don't do that. I can help other people speak, but I'm not a speaker. I have nothing to say. And then he was like, no, sorry, you're going to have, if you want to be a speaking coach, you're going to have to get on stage and speak. And so, and
Makes
once
sense.
I got on stage, what?
It makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense. So then I was like, okay. So once I got on stage to speak, like I was comfortable as a theater artist on stage, but to actually claim authority and expertise and get on stage and say, here's my thinking, here's my expertise, here's how this can make a difference in your life, that was terrifying. But once I did that and started to understand strategy and how to tell a story and how to make it relevant to your audience and all that it takes to create that journey for your audience, then I stopped being a starving artist. I started building a business.
Nice. So what do you speak about when you speak?
I speak about confidence. I mean, it depends on who I'm speaking to, but I speak about confidence and storytelling and going to the edge. It's like finding your edge and the power and magic of going to your own edge and stepping into your genius, no matter how terrifying. The power that it can have in your own life, the power that it can have in your company, in your business, in the world, to be able to be willing to get uncomfortable, in service of transformation.
Mm-hmm. But do you find the edge there is just people who lack confidence in their story, or is it like, how much should I share? Or is it, I see people a lot of times like in marketing where they're all ready to do the storytelling and then they make it as generic as possible. Like, it's not the point.
Yeah.
It's got to be personal. Is that what you mean by pushing that edge?
Yeah, I think it's personal. I mean, I think people have different edges. Everybody has a different edge. For one person, it might be, I'm totally comfortable on stage when I've got a slide deck there, but when I have to show up and share my humanity and vulnerability, that's terrifying, or that's uncomfortable. Or I'm really comfortable in a room of 1,000 people, but when it's a small group, then, they can all see me, and that's terrifying, Or I'm comfortable telling a story, that's no problem, but when I have to actually share expertise and thinking, then I'm afraid people are going to judge me. So it can look so different. It can look so different for different people. And I think each person is really identifying, what's your edge? What's your edge? Mm-hmm. Where do you kind of like back away from your own power? And when you go there, that's where the magic is. That's where the power is. So yeah, it could be in some cases, like, I always say, the more specific the story, it opens the door into what's universal, where the more vulnerable you're willing to be, the more specific you're willing to be, to tell a specific story about a challenge you've overcome, a challenge you've faced. That's what lets your audience say, oh, this person gets me. Oh, mm-hmm. She understands me. Oh, she's speaking directly to me.
Well, I know getting on stages, it creates authority.
Yeah.
And we all know that. So maybe that imposter syndrome takes over. Yeah. Am I really an authority in this? Yeah, you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It is. When you're the one on stage, people want to hear what you have to say. And then that positions you as the expert. It positions you as the authority. And when you get on stage and claim that, and say, oh, I'm an authority here. I have something to say that could make a difference in your life. I have something to say that might be a little bit different from the popular thinking. When you're willing to do that for so many people just kicks up all the old stories, the imposter syndrome, the old stories of self-doubt. If I'm not good enough, I have nothing to say. If somebody else hasn't said it, then I must be wrong. Somebody else can say it better. Oh, she's a little smarter. She's a little skinnier. She's a little something, just the stories are just endless. I mean, one story when I was a kid, I was 5 days, I didn't say a word. In college, I made a self-portrait. It was a big 18 by 24 piece of paper. My face is in the corner and a huge talk bubble. And in the center of the talk bubble, in tiny letters, it said, I have nothing to say. So this was a story that I told about myself. Thankfully, like I said, through theater and poetry and art, I was able to connect to my voice. But then every leap I take, every time I step onto a bigger stage, like when I started my business and my coach said, you got to speak now. I was like, nuh-uh, I have nothing to say. And then I started speaking for, you know, and having success and starting to love it and seeing the impact I have and seeing the value that I can deliver to people. And then I'm invited to give a TEDx talk, and boom, I face plant in TEDx. I have nothing to say, you know. So those old stories, every time we take a new leap, the old stories kind of like rear up and say,
yeah.
That's why we take leaps, so we can rewrite those old stories.
No, it's amazing what I can say to myself when I'm on the treadmill or on my bike, and then go to say it to someone else, and like, they probably know that.
Right.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But the fundamental, I think, to getting out and talking.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I think we live in our expertise. And so it's kind of like the air we breathe. So it's like, yeah, everybody knows that. That's no big deal. Why would I talk about
it? They don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember one of the things that we worked on when I was transitioning from the military, and they were getting us ready to talk to civilian recruiters, jobs actually to go and interview. And one of the things that, it was a few big ones, but one of the main ones was stop talking in acronyms, because in the military everything's an acronym. SOP, RIP, things of this nature. You keep, because you're talking to folks who do know what you're talking about, and stop assuming everybody knows what you're talking about.
Right.
And use the, I won't use the phrase dumb it down, but stop talking in code.
Yeah.
You know, speak or assume that. So my turn on that in this arena is, no, they don't, because they wouldn't be listening to you if they did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, they're stopping in. They clicked on the thumbnail. They stopped to the episode because they want to hear what you have to say about that subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You know, that too, I was reading a book the other day, and the main part of it that really spoke to me, I'd already heard 10 times. I didn't hear it at the right time.
Right.
It fit right in. I was like, I know this already, but it fit right into where I needed to hear it that time.
Yeah.
So even when.
I think it's a combination of really honoring the intelligence of your audience. Like, you're not speaking to idiots. So it's like being able to really know where your audience is and trust and celebrate and honor their intelligence and the journey they've been on already. It's not about, you know, and so knowing where they are, and at the same time, really holding the baby steps, the power of a baby step. And that we think like, oh yeah, those kind of square one parts of our work are so significant and so foundational. And like you said, Roberta, when we hear those things repeatedly, that's when they sing, that's when they stick. So it's like, we got to say the same things over and over again. Like, it's like a hit song. We love to hear the hit songs over and over again.
We do.
You know, and sometimes it's like a song I knew 25 years ago. I hear a word or a phrase differently now than I did then. I've heard the song a million times, and something like, oh, now that makes sense.
Yeah, because it ties in with now your present life experiences.
Yeah.
You didn't get that at this point in your business,
right?
Because here on the show, I love talking and hearing the origin stories of our guest. And often you hear, well, I was doing stuff, but I never saw myself as a business person. And then I realized, yeah, I did the same thing. I was a worker without a job. I was an employee without a company. There we go. I was an employee without a company. And you were out there, you say starving artist. Okay. So it was always kind of like a survival mode in a sense.
Yeah.
Got to make sure we get rent. Got to eat.
Right.
Let's try to have a little fun on the way.
Yeah.
But not all the pieces fitting together.
Right. Right.
To where it's a business. And you often find that with women, grown women growing wealth. You rarely hear that with guys. Oh, I didn't think it was, yeah. If anything, they think it's a business that is not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not us, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. I work with men and women, but a lot of women find me. A lot of my clients are women, and even women living big lives, living big lives and having successful businesses and, making big change in the world still faceplant in some old story around their voice that is keeping them back. And when they claim that, the power, the ripple effect that comes from that, when they take a stand and say, oh, I'm a business owner, I'm an authority here, are we still good? Seems like the image changed. Oh, I guess we're still live. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. I'm an authority here. I have something to say that I want you to hear. I have something to say that can make a difference in your life. And taking that stand, sorry, there's a bunch of tech stuff just happened. But taking that stand,
sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. I just want to get back in this moment here. Taking that stand is incredibly powerful, Juju. And it creates change in your business, in your life, in so many ways. I think because most of us just didn't get a lot of support around our voices in some way. Like I said, my quiet story is extreme, but I always say, like, if you weren't the quiet one, I'm willing to bet you got in trouble for talking too much.
All the time.
We get hammered. We get
hammered for it, yeah.
Voices in one way or another.
Yeah, talking too much, having too much to say.
Yeah.
That was a familiar statement, was nobody really cares about your opinion.
Oh, you're a little loud there, Daphne. You're a little loud. Could we just, you're doing too much.
Yes. Yeah. And there's always the Southern girl thing. Boys like girls with their mouth and legs shut. Ooh. Like, thanks, Mom.
Oof.
So yeah, I think as women, especially in a certain generation, I don't know now, it seems like they talk a little too much on social media, but especially our generation, I think as women, we were definitely socialized to be at least secondary in the voice.
Yeah.
Not the lead.
Yeah.
Right. The worst thing was to be called bossy.
Oh God, yeah.
That stopped the conversation quick.
Yeah.
You're bossy. Oh man. Don't want to be that.
Yeah. And it seems really like girls now tend to have a lot more agency and willingness to take risks and put themselves out there. And like, I just had a chat with a girl in my neighborhood recently. She's probably 12. And we were just sitting on a bench and I started asking her questions and I said, what's something you're really good at? And she said, nothing. Nothing. Her answer was nothing. There's nothing I'm really good at. So, yeah, they're still out there getting hammered. They're still out there getting hammered.
Yeah, it's the dual edge of social media.
Yeah, now in social.
Yeah, it's the dual edge because it's brought in a lot of things, freedoms and so forth, but its constant presence can wear on the nerves. So where they fit in the hierarchy, because they can't turn it off. I mean, if you ran into certain things at school as a Gen Xer, we could turn it off when we came home. School,
right?
That was a dividing line, and we could turn it off. Or areas could be separated. School, church, they were different places. There was some place that was just your safe spot. And social media, that constant, that 24-hourness of it. Because even as an adult, I have to make sure I shut it down at times and put the phone away. And totally. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to put that phone away for a bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've discovered
somewhere.
I mean, since
reading again.
The thing, especially since COVID, that has happened is for speakers. The stage, the definition of stage has expanded in so many ways. I mean, we've had access to the internet for a long time, obviously, but since COVID, when everything was shut down. Like I remember in March of 2020, I had speaking gigs lined up that got canceled. And I thought, oh, I'm going to just, I'm going to hang out in my backyard until June or July when we're on the other side of this. And then I'll get going again, Anyway, all that to say, like a lot of in-person stuff got canceled. And then the doors started opening to all the ways we can connect online and all the, the definition of stage looks different now. It looks in-person events are happening again, and in-person stages are happening. But now the virtual stage has just completely cracked open, which means you can get in front of your people in so many different ways. You have access to so many more people because the virtual stage has opened so many doors. So it's just another reason to challenge those old stories, take your place on the stage as a thought leader, as an expert, and own it. I have something to say that could make a difference in your life. And when you start getting, when I first had that speaking gig, when my coach said, oh yeah, you're going to have to go speak, I was like, I got a gig, and then I powered my way through. It was like, I just want to get through it, And then I started learning, oh, this can actually connect me to clients. This can actually connect me to the people I want to serve. And I started using it then more strategically. And so all that to say, it's an incredibly powerful way to get in front of your people. And now that we have this stage, it's like, the possibilities.
Wide open.
Yeah, it's wide open.
Now, do you also help people to get on stages, to learn how to, where do you go and who do you ask and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I have a program. My signature program is Craft Your Talk, where the focus is, in my expertise, my genius, is really helping you craft the talk. Like, who's in your audience? Where are they when they walk into the room? Where do you want them to be when they walk out of the room? And how are you going to get them there? And how are you going to show up with heart and humanity and strategy and expertise? How are you going to bring all that in so that your audience says, yes, I'm in. I want to follow you. I want to work with you. I want to donate to your cause, whatever it is. So that's the heart of the work that I do. And, I work with people to develop this talk. And for a while I did this program, was like, you develop a talk and then you deliver the talk. My program includes, you get to deliver the talk. And then people would go off and be like, okay, I have this great talk, and then face plant in their old stories, because booking and pitching your talk is a whole other ball.
Whole other thing.
And it's like, oh, I have this cool talk. Okay. So now I've added a whole nother month of the program where we dig into, how do you talk about your talk? How do you pitch your talk? How do you find the stages? How do you have those conversations? How do you get it in front of the people who can benefit from it? Because the talk on your shelf is not going to do anybody any good. It's gotta be on stages for it to benefit the people who need to hear it. Which means picking up the phone, sending the email, doing the detective work, finding those stages, and standing in your value as you pitch your talk.
No, I have been offered a few times what it's paid talk. I don't call it that. It's just paid talking, right? So it's people who put on associations or events for my client base, and they let the sponsors talk. So you have to pay to be on stage unless you are their big headliner. There's a couple people in the industry that they always pull in to these events. And I often wondered, is that worth it? Do people know? Is it just what's the same as any marketing, cost to acquire a client? What is it compared?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on your business model. For some people, it works great. If you've got the back end dialed in and you've got a pathway to get that audience into your pipeline and purchasing, then paying to get on that stage can be totally worth it. Totally worth it. And it's all about with the back end. It's all about what you've got on the back end. Right. So it's like there's paid speaking where you're paid to get on stage and deliver a keynote. Right. And then there's free speaking where you speak for free and you get people into your, you know, you're growing a following, you're building relationships, you're getting people into your world, into your pipeline. You might have an offer that you get them on a call, or you have a $97, workshop that you're selling. And that's free speaking, and that can be highly lucrative. Mm-hmm. Again, you've got the back end. And then there's pay to play. There's pay to get on stage. And that, if you're confident in the sales you're going to get from it, then it's totally worth it.
Sure.
On YouTube, you find with the particularly folks that they built a following going live at a certain time, set date and time, the affiliate setup where, for instance, you have a coaching program.
Yeah.
And some of it is online, I take it? Or is it all just, okay.
It's mostly online, yeah. And then there's an in-person component, but yeah.
Exactly. So I'd invite you onto my live. Don't have one yet, but I'd invite you on, and you'd have an affiliate link, because we'd sit there, we'd be talking about it. Yeah. And Joanna has this awesome show, and check the link out below as we're discussing, because basically the live is a 30, 40-minute commercial. Uh-huh. You're giving us a couple of things, but not everything. You've got 4 steps. You give us 2. Yeah. Expound a bit. And so, because there is also paying to be on someone's show, just like you talked about, paying to be on their stage. But there's also, okay, here's your affiliate link, whatever we sell from this particular link, here's your portion of it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a version of the paying to be on your show. Paying to be on your stage.
It's like, okay, if you help me sell this, I'll give you a cut.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. The speakers that I work with, I'm not teaching people how to give a sales talk. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between a sales talk that's like, sales talk that ends in a sale, right? I'm teaching people how to get clear about an idea.
Okay.
And what's the idea? Because we all, it's our minds that it's our minds and our hearts. But when you change somebody's mind, they're going to take a different action. They're going to do a thing. So what I help people with is getting really clear about the idea that you want to know, that you want to be known for. Mm-hmm. So, like TEDx style talks. I help people create TEDx style talks that can be expanded into a keynote or shrunk into an Ignite talk, or that is at the heart of your sales talk. Because ultimately, if you want somebody to buy, if you want somebody to say yes, you have to change their mind. You have to shift a perspective.
Right.
So
it's much better than, I like to be sold to that way, much better than, the old NLP persuasion, the whole, we're friends, right? I'd much rather hear a good story and what happened to you and how it made you different and what you're offering from that point of view. And then I want to buy something.
Yeah.
Or see you don't want to, next step is.
You mean you don't want to mirror the person you're talking to? If they nod your head,
them if you want.
Well, from stage, I mean, I've been in rooms where people are selling from the stage, and it's, and I have purchased something that I didn't really want because I was so, taken into, and then it's like, and then I'm sick to my stomach because it's like, I feel like, I got to buy this thing or else I'm going to be unhappy for the rest of my life. Right. I have gotten totally pulled into those sales pitches, those talks that sell, that they're all about selling. And for my business, I'm not interested in making those kinds of sales.
Yeah. I mean, you often get the regret that you're talking about, right? The buyer's remorse.
But my point is more, I want to make a sale from a relationship. Like, speaking is about building relationship, and you just build, when you're having a conversation and you're to see if this this person wants to work with you, right? It's a relationship. You're building a relationship, and you're showing the value. You're showing the value you deliver, and you're showing that you can meet a need, right? That's the same thing. And that's a one-on-one conversation. That's the same thing that's happening on the stage. It's like we're having a relationship. I just get to have a relationship with 500 people at once, you know, where I show up with my humanity and say, and knowing where my audience might be struggling, I speak directly to that. You know, and I connect on a human level. That's the beginning of a relationship that gets to grow in a multitude of ways. But I'm so much more interested in really building a relationship so that, like, how can I serve you?
Sorry.
To me, that's a more interest. That's the way I want to do my business, more than like figuring out the manipulative tactics. Right.
No, the jujitsu of the sales conversation. Yeah, I'm a recovering life insurance agent, so that's what we're taught. The what was the responses to
the objections?
There we go. Responses to objections.
Yeah,
that you memorized.
Yeah.
If they say this, say this. If they say, well, because if you do too much of that, it leads to the chargeback, which is a terrible thing. And when you're a real estate, you're an insurance person, like you said,
period, right?
Yeah, that remorse, and they drop the policy within a certain period, and then you have to get your commission back, the dreaded chargeback. So.
Yeah.
So you never, I learned early that objection overcoming, twisting words and just getting them to sign here. No, you better get some understanding, especially about something as long lasting as life insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to understand their commitment and why it's important, why it is important, what's in it for them.
But the assumption is that they don't know their own mind. And that's what I always hated about the manipulative sales pitch, right? Like, I do know what I think. Now, maybe if you've changed my mind, like you're saying, Johanna and Daphne, you obviously learned along the way. When someone understands more or gains some knowledge or has a mindset shift, then it's like, oh, okay, I understand now why I would ask her to coach me in speaking, why I would ask, Daphne about her Bitcoin class, whatever it is. But when it's just used to overcome, like, the way I feel is the way I feel. And if you're trying to overcome it,
right.
I don't know.
Because it is, because when you're talking about, particularly because so many things started with that journey in life insurance. That is a very important product. And everybody needs life insurance. No, I'm not selling. Everybody needs life insurance, whether they're a starving artist, whether they're a $1 million producer in the mortgage business. Everybody needs life insurance because it's important to you, individual right here. It's important to the people around you. It's a product that's there for your for the whole financial thing going forward. It's a cornerstone. It's a cornerstone product. And the thing is that there has to be that understanding there that this is important going forward. And this is why you need to become involved in the product. Just like it's important to understand why you need to live a little bit below your means and why you should have, and that your dollars, you have to get a portion of the dollars that you're bringing in to work for you. They have to create baby dollars. So once you get those basic concepts down, you start to move on to bigger concepts that help you actually grow wealth. But I'm getting off into my tangents. But again, so how in talking to someone, getting them to open up so they can learn something, so that okay, I see what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do further research on that, or that's now going to sit in my mind and quail there.
Yeah.
And then you brought in
a connection. It's about building a connection. When you build a connection, a meaningful connection, then anything is possible. Like that's when things become possible. It's like, oh, I trust you. I get your humanity. It's like, you've shown me that you're an expert. You've shown me that you're a human just like me.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like, I'm in. Then I want to have a conversation with you. Then I want to find out more. And so I help people do that from the stage to show both. It's really about finding that balance between your humanity and your expertise.
Yes.
You know,
Because
because I think vulnerability, like there's a vulnerability trap, like vulnerability is a catchword. It's like we're all supposed to be vulnerable. So people go think, oh, that means I have to talk about my traumatic childhood and all the horrible things that have happened to me. And I have to, that's not it. Like, that's not actually what we want to hear.
Nobody wants to see your underpants on the first day.
well,
leave it for me.
You get to show, like, yeah, I'm a person just like you. I have struggles just like you, and I've figured some out. I've figured a few things out that I want to share with you.
Right. Yeah. I want to leave you a better person than I found, a bit more educated.
Yeah.
And because toward the end, it was which led me to other platforms like YouTube and podcasting. You don't have to buy from me. But I really just want you to understand that this thing is important, but your overall financial well-being, you're responsible for, and this is a part of it. And so just moving forward with that understanding, particularly for women, just you're responsible and it's okay. You can figure this out. There's ways to figure it out.
Johanna, who do you recommend seeking out stages? Just any business owner, any entrepreneur, or do you think there's certain businesses that it's better for, or just the person who really is desiring to do so?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's for coaches, consultants, service-based business owners. Those are the people I work with. Mission driven, so it's like it's not just about the sales. They want to have an impact. They actually have some thinking and some ideas that want to, and speaking is the way to amplify them. Speaking is a way to get them out into the world. But I think anybody that wants more visibility, as long as you're getting in front of your audience. So it's finding out, where does your audience congregate? What events do they go to? Where do they gather? What groups are they part of? What conferences do they go to? And as long as you can get in front of the people that you can serve, certainly any business owner who wants more visibility, speaking is a powerful way to get that visibility. I often say it's the fast path to transformation, and it's a fast path to cash. Because like the transformation, it just like, it face plants you in your old stories, and you have to meet them and rewrite them. It kind of forces you to rewrite those old stories. And if you have a strategic map of your talk and you know how to deliver value and connect deeply with your audience to show what I have is going to change your life, it's going to make a difference in your life, when you can really show that, then people want to work with you. And speaking is the best way to get in front of them. So, and then I would say the other thing is, like, that's for business owners. It's a great way to connect with your clients. Sometimes just thought leaders. I work with folks who don't have or they have a business. Their business is in good shape. They have clients. They don't want more clients, but they really have thinking that they know. Like, we are the culture makers. We create culture. We create the world we live in. And speaking is a powerful way to create the world that you want to live in. When you share your thinking and your ideas, and like, here's how I want the world to be, and here's how it can make a difference in your life. We get to create this world together.
You're certainly communicating your values, right? If speaking done well, not necessarily hitting people over the head with them, but they can get a good flavor of you.
Right. It's a two-way street. It's not like I just get on stage and just like, this is I'm so smart and I've thought about all these things and look at me. It's really knowing who's in the audience. What do they care about? What keeps them up at night? And where does my passion and my expertise fit with their question and their need and their struggle? When you have both of those in place.
That's a great statement. Passion and expertise meets their problem, their worry,
their desire, their longing. Yeah. And that's what I help people do, is really answer, you know, it's like, what are all the questions I need to answer to be able to find that meeting place between my expertise, my passion, and my audience's need, my audience's questions. That's when people are going to lean in and say, like, oh my God, what else? Where do I write the check? How do I work with you? How do I follow you?
Definitely. I listened to Anne Lamott's TED Talk not too long ago, and it was not given in any sort of normal speech manner at all, but she communicates her expertise and her passion so well. And you definitely want more. I'm like, does she have any more of these? Does she have any books? Oh, only 19 books. Yeah. Right. I love Roberta.
Yeah. I've heard her speak before. Yeah. I love her.
Yeah. Like, I have to have more of whatever she's got to say.
Yeah.
In whatever format. Very powerful. So where have you given speeches that what was like the scariest place? Is it more people for you, less people? What's your scary place?
My scary place. My scary place. I don't know if I relate to scary anymore. Like, it's definitely like I get nervous and I mean, the scariest for me was early on in my business. I was invited to give a talk. It was a TED style talk about how I walk the edge. And I knew immediately I needed to tell a story of not having children and my path to not having children, and and it was a very vulnerable personal story. But I knew that was the story I had to tell. And the morning of the event, I was like in bed under the covers saying, Johanna, why do you do this to yourself? You don't have to do it. Just cancel. Why do you do this? Like, it was just ridiculous for me. And I was thinking of reasons to cancel and how to get out of it. And I went and I gave the talk, and I went to the event, right? And standing off stage, terrified, and still considering running the other way, still trying to figure out how I could get out of it. And when I thought, if there's one person in the audience who needs to hear this talk today, I'm going to go out and give this talk for that person. So I did. That's what got me on stage. It was thinking about the one person in the audience who needed to hear my story on that day. So I got on stage trusting that there was somebody, and I gave my talk. I went totally blank in the middle of it. I made my way through the moment of blank, you know. And in the end, there were a lot of people in the audience who needed to hear that talk. The talk is on YouTube. People from all over the world have reached out to me, thanking me for that talk. And, you know, so it was, and that was such a deep lesson for me to remember, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about my fear, my nerves, or are people going to like me? Are people going to love me? You know, it's about the person in the audience who needs what you have to deliver. And
who are you going to save?
Who are you going to save? Yeah. 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 So that, for me, that lesson, like that talk was terrifying for me. But the lesson I learned when I gave that talk was, it's not about me. And that has carried me through. So even when I feel uncomfortable, I love big rooms. I love the energy of big rooms, you know. I gave a talk to real estate, like at MBA students at CU, and like they were like behind their computers, like that was a hard audience. I wouldn't say scary, but hard. I had to figure out how to get them like leaning in, and I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. Put the screens down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough crowd these days.
Yeah.
But I guess it is anywhere you go, though. I mean, everybody's got their phone in their hand. So just overcoming, you know, the attention of the people there in the audience.
Yeah. 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 You gotta right out of the gate communicate. I'm here for you. This is going to be valuable to you. Here's why you need to listen.
Right. Right. But this is what I got to tell you. And it's important. It's going to help you out. It's going to leave you a better person once you get this information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. So do you recommend people use your formula, like obviously on stages, but does it translate to if they're doing lives, if they're doing like Daphne, she's doing a YouTube channel, like all these mini stages, if you want to call it that we're putting ourselves on these days?
Yeah. Well, like I said in my program, I mean, I work with people a bunch of different ways, but like my key program, you create a TED style talk. But part of what we do is talk about how to make that an accordion talk. So that talk can shrink into like a 2-minute TikTok, right? Or a 45, or expand into a 45-minute keynote or a 90-minute breakout session. So you get the framework that can apply to any communication. Anytime you're communicating an idea, here's the framework, here's the map to follow. So whatever, and how to take the, the pieces from the talk. And, for instance, in a podcast interview, how do you know all the value that you want to deliver, that you can, we do the work to clarify the idea and clarify the stories and get the pieces of your expertise well articulated. Then you can apply them in many, many situations.
But that must inspire a lot of confidence, right? When you have clarity about being able to pick through your story, what parts of it you're going to tell.
Yeah.
Not necessarily memorize, I'm guessing, but just having really solid familiarity with the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We've blanked out in the middle of a talk before.
Now, I'm just kind of just running over what you're talking about, because it keeps coming back to the roots of this show about that as women, we bring different things to the business, to being in business and why we're in business. And so let's find a way to make that profitable for us so we can stay in business and keep delivering the service, so that it's a business, not simply a ministry, where you're doing it for free. Well,
right. Yeah.
Because we have to keep, as they say, we have to keep, body and soul together. So we have to create a business, which means we have to actually package a service or a product, and then there has to be profit. There has to be revenue, and then we have to make sure we get because there's a difference between revenue and profit, and that we have to understand that. Yeah, I made a lot of sales. Yeah, but your expenses.
Right.
There was no profit. So you can't go help people because you have no money. You can't put any gas in your car. So there we are. And about getting a business started.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the businesses that are successful are the ones who do both, who have, you have the strategy for revenue and profit making, right? That you're generating income and that is connected to a meaning and mission.
Right. So with your, so we're talking about speaking and getting on stages, getting, back in front of people, or getting up on stages, which is now possible because that nasty little problem, is gone for now. But are you doing things, social media wise? And do you have any particular channels that you like more than others, or?
I'm pretty active on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm, the social media stage is definitely out of my comfort zone. I don't, so I'm like, I do videos from time to time. I keep I keep telling myself I got to be more consistent with making videos and because I love speaking.
Right.
And I have a lot to say, and I'm relatable. A lot of people report that they can connect with me and relate to me. But being on social media is so hard for me. So I'm personally trying to figure that out and make it fun and meaningful.
I record it and have somebody else post it. So it's here. I mean, I've been doing lives, but in my group, that, just to record it and say whatever it is and then have somebody else post
I
it
mean,
so I don't feel that connection to social?
I mean, for me, like this, I love having a conversation, and I love being in the room with people. And like I do some free online classes. So the online stage, as long as the people are in the room and I can relate to them, that's different. But there's something about just like me going live on Instagram or Facebook, there it's like I can't feel the audience at all. I'm just like talking into a vacuum. That's what's hard for me. And I'm, because I get juice from the audience. I get juice from the audience. That's what feeds me. And when you're just alone speaking to the vacuum, you got to create that juice. You got to create that energy,
Yes,
it can be tough. It can be tough when you're going live and you haven't built an audience that knows to check in with you, or that when they see your notification that they come over.
Right.
So even if it's onesies and twosies.
Right.
So I'm really in awe of the folks who built where they'll come on and literally hundreds, if not thousands of folks will show up.
I know.
So
yeah, I have had some fun on, just like taking the leap, because I make my clients do it all the time, leap into their, out of their comfort zone. So I'm like, okay, I got to do it. And then it turns out fun. Like it's not, I definitely have a story that it's not fun and that it's hard. But then I do it and it's like, oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, there you go. Because you got to get it done. Got to get it out there.
Yeah.
Well, Joanna, it's been great having you here. We're getting into that Joe Rogan territory. Could you tell our listeners where they can find you if they don't come see you on stage?
Yeah, they can find me I'm on Johanna Walker Speaking on LinkedIn and Instagram, also on Facebook, but I'm not so active on Facebook. But Instagram and LinkedIn, Johanna Walker Speaking. And I have a free PDF download. If you go to johannawalker.com/better stories, there's a 10 tips for how to tell stories that attract clients and have more impact.
Nice. We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, be sure to make sure we get that link.
When is your next speaking group, Coach, or have you decided?
The other thing I should tell, well, my program actually starts in a week.
Okay.
I'm certainly happy to talk to anybody about that. But I do have a mixer. I just remembered I should tell you about the mixer, that even if I always say the next speaking gig that you have is going to come from somebody you know. And so there's so much about building relationships and nurturing your network. So I host a monthly mixer where you get to meet other speakers and event organizers and podcast hosts to build those relationships and
great.
Get open the door to some speaking opportunity.
And that's on your website as well?
That is not on my website. That's new. And I don't think I have I got to get that on my website though. But if you go to Johanna Walker, I don't have a link on my website. The landing page is johannawalker.com/mixer.
Okay.
So that's where you can find out about that.
Cool. I'm going to write that down, because I'll be there at your next one.
Yeah, the next one is next Tuesday, the 12th.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. And it's been fun. I have this improv theater background. So we do it's not your normal mixer where you just say, do your pitch and run.
Right.
We're actually having fun together and building connections and getting some clarity around your messaging. And so, yeah, that's fun.
Very nice. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was great.
Thank you.
It's been great. Hey, and those of you out there, thanks for joining us on this episode of Grown Women Growing Wealth. And I'll see you lovely ladies later, especially you, Roberta. Bye-bye now.